This is a recording of basically exercise 2. Exercise 2 uses a hallway, and exercise 2 uses a grizzly bear. And basically what we're going to do for the grizzly bear, we're going to use a new tool. We're going to use the magnetic lasso, and that one, to get there, if you're in some of the workspaces, it doesn't have that tool. So the workspace you want is photography, and the magnetic lasso is the second tool on the left, and it's the bottom one. Now I would definitely zoom in a little bit on your bear, maybe not that large. What I might do is use the navigator here. Let me actually clean up this desktop real quick just so that it's like yours. I always mess it up. And so navigator will let me zoom out just a little. So you want it to be big enough to where you can see it nicely, but maybe not huge. And with this tool, you basically trace along. Now if it messes up, sometimes you'll try to get out of it, and notice it doesn't let you. The trick is double click and then deselect. So select, deselect. Alright, so how do you use it? You start on the ear or wherever and you trace along. Once you start, you can release the mouse button. It'll still grab. And when you change direction, like on the foot, I would click to set a point. And I'm going to click here at this end of the foot because I'm going to go up. And then I'm going to click to go across. And then I'm going to click again to go down. And then I'm going to click here. Now the claws, because they're such a different color, I'm also going to click through these. So I'm just traveling, clicking. Now if it's not perfect, that's okay. Just keep going. And that's good actually, because I want you guys to learn how to fix a selection that's not exactly perfect. Like if there's parts missing, that's part of this, to know how to do that. Once you get all the way around, you're going to click. It's going to give you the selection. Now for some reason, if you deselect, like I just did, purposefully, but if you do by mistake, go to the history panel that's right up here and just go to before you deselected. So I'm just clicking to the top one again, and now I've selected it again. So don't feel like if you lose the selection you have to start over. You don't. Let's see the bear as large as possible now. So view, fit on screen, and from there now anything that needs to be fixed, we're going to use the normal lasso, the regular one. So hold down on it, choose the top one, and these are the buttons you're going to use. If you need to add to the selection, you want this button. If you need to subtract, you want this button. So I'm going to be doing both. There's just a few spots I'll add a little bit. So first I'll add. Now think of this, it's a lasso, so you need to make a loop when you draw. So right now, I'm missing a little bit of the edge of his foot, the fur that's on the edge of his foot. So I'm going to start inside the selection, and then I'm going to loop out of the selection to grab the part I'm missing, and then I'm going to loop back. And that's moved the selection out farther. I'm going to do it on this side too. So start inside the selection, move outward, loop back. Right on his mouth, there's just a little tiny bit of his chin area that's missing. So once again, I'll start inside the selection. I'll go right to the outside edge a little bit, and then I'm going to loop back. And then right through here, I'm also going to start, scoop around, loop back. And on this side, start, scoop around, loop back. Then and then for subtract, it's kind of the opposite. And actually, let me add a part I don't need, just so I can show you subtracting. So here's subtract. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start outside the selection. I'm going to cut through and define that edge that I really want, and then loop back. I can also take out this whole chunk where you can see the ground beneath or between the bear's legs, and I'm just going to draw around and grab that chunk like so. So I'm pretty good there now. Here's the next step. This is where we're going to get the fluffy fur of the bear. We're going to click the button that says Select and Mask. It pops us into kind of a new world that has this panel, and it has some brushes. The brushes let you actually edit. So like, watch what I can do. I can grab the lasso and I can do this, and it's going to grab that background. Or I could go in and choose minus, and I can just simply fix it there too. So you can also fix from this window. Here's what we're going to do for this bear. We're going to use a little bit of Smart Radius, just about 2 pixels. And what you'll notice is that now the edge is fuzzy. It's kind of, it's got little jagged fur coming out, where before it didn't. Now the next part, one thing about this panel is it tends to be too long like that. Kind of weird, but what you want to do is click the arrow for the output settings, and you want to choose, you might have to scroll down, you want to choose output to new layer. And then here you can also notice yours probably looked like that. There's different view modes, so it doesn't matter which one you're on. It's whatever one you prefer. I just happen to like this one better, which is why I switched it. But just know, nothing's wrong with this. If it looks like that, it doesn't mean there's anything different going on. It's just a different way to view it. All right, now that we have it outputting to a new layer and we've done Smart Radius, we're ready to click OK. Unfortunately, with this panel, we can't reach the OK button. So here's how to trick it. You want to move it over so that you can see the OK, and then you can actually shrink it a little smaller, and you can click that button. So now it's outputted to a new layer. Notice on the layer panel here, there's the new cutout bear, and then there's still the original too. So all you need to do at this point is drag the bear into the hallway, like so. From there, before we copy our bear, we're going to zoom in a little. So if you use View, you could do Zoom In. You could also use the navigator to zoom in. You can use the hand tool to move it around, or you can use in the navigator, you can use the red box. What we're going to do is clone this leaf out. That tool is the 6th tool down on the right, and it's bundled with Pattern Stamp. So we're going to go ahead and grab Clone. We're going to go up here, adjust the brush so that it is about 72 in this hardness slider. The size you can adjust here, or you can use your bracket keys to make it bigger or smaller. And we're also going to drop the opacity down to the 70s as well, this button. The reason for doing it is so you want the edge to be slightly fuzzy but not too fuzzed out, because it'll make your picture blurry when you clone. Also, if it's a little bit see-through, it's easier to blend. Now, how does this work? Well, you go, and what this clone tool does is it paints with a piece of a photograph. So first you need to tell the computer what part of the fur you want to copy. And to do it, you hold the Option button, you'll get that little symbol, and when you see it, you click once with the mouse, you release the Option button, and then you go ahead and you start to paint. Now I usually grab more than one source point, so I'll go from both sides of it and I'll Option click, release, and paint, just as a way to blend it. What you want to avoid is having a bunch of fur that looks the same. So Option, click, Option, click. And then once you're done with that, you can fit on screen again. Now we're ready to copy our bear. We're going to Option drag, and from there we're going to take and flip this bear by going to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And from there, we're going to position him and make him smaller. And position him so that he's near the doorway. Then we're going to do a very similar move to what we did with the ducks. And we're going to go ahead and grab the background layer. We're going to use a new lasso, the middle one, polygon. And we're going to draw right along the edge of the doorway, all the way down to below the bear a little bit, trying to keep it nice and straight. We'll go over, up, and across. And then now making sure that the background layer is selected, we'll do Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And then finally we will drag that little piece of wall that looks like that. We'll drag it above the bear. Sometimes it's a little stubborn if it's at the very top. So like that, now our bear is within the hallway. The last part of this involves you guys going on the internet and finding things to fill the hallway up with. It's practice cutting, and you know, you're gonna basically just be inventive. You want to grab at least 20 things. So here's another one. Let me zoom out. So that one's not quite done. That actually needs to be adjusted. But you know, you're just going to be cutting stuff out, bringing it into the hallway until you have exactly 20 things, and then you will be ready to turn it in. When you go to name it, you're going to go and do File, Save As, and you're going to name it last name, first name, EX2. You don't have to put the period number. Pay attention to where you're saving it. You might want to save it to the desktop. And that way, you'll be ready to turn it in. Remember, when you go to turn stuff in, you want to be down here to the inbox. And once that opens, if it cooperates, which mine yesterday was kind of slow, but then you just go ahead and you want to drag the file to that the period number for your particular period.